Hello people, before we begin proper, I'd just like to thank the many organisations that have already done work regarding this individual that we're going to discuss, in particular Edijester, Transgender Trend, Bayswater Support, others that have brought great clarity to what's going on in the NHS. So I would be nowhere without them. Remember that. I hope you enjoy this. Beep, 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 beep. Welcome to the Court of the Edijester. How are we doing, good people? Right, today going to take you on a little journey and you're going to come with me. Don't go away. I want to take a look at a guy called Michael Brady. Now, Michael Brady is the National Advisor for LGBT Health, NHS England, Sexual Health and HIV Consultant, King's College Hospital. Him. Views and opinions my own, he states on his Twitter profile. It is important to understand that this is an individual who has extraordinary influence across the NHS, and I want to know why he's still there. But I would also like to take a look historically at what we can tell from about Mr. Brady from his output on Twitter. So this is the beginning of a look at individuals that are involved in the NHS, a series I hope which will continue into education as we begin to rein in the LGBT plus Fruit Loops who have caused so much damage. I think it's time that we did this kind of thing. I think it's time we examine and ask questions about who it is that's pushing this ideology into our institutions, and it seems to me that Mr. Michael Brady is a good place to start. Now, Michael may be a nice guy to have a beer with, I don't know, I've not met the man, but I'm going to assume here Hannon's razor applies, which is don't put down to wickedness that which you can ascribe to stupidity, or in some cases, kindness and belief that what they are doing is a righteous cause. That, I think, is probably the most likely answer. However, please do join me as we take a look at the Twitter output of this man, and then you can comment and let me know exactly what you think and whether or not we need to do something about getting Mr. Brady held to account in the public. Let's start. I begin with a tweet here which says, our NHS should be a place where clinical need is prioritised. Can't disagree. Care is person-centred. Can't disagree. Access is equitable. Can't disagree. Experience is excellent. Can't disagree. We communicate with language that is inclusive of all. Right. And the privacy, dignity and safety of everyone is respected. Well, here we've got a problem. And then it's got hashtag LGBT health and a picture of the trans flag alongside the original rainbow flag. A language that is inclusive of all. The privacy, dignity and safety of everyone is respected. It appears here, this particular tweet from October 2023, that Mr. Brady has very little respect for the safety and dignity of women. It's not a good start, is it? But this is just the beginning. Let's move on. Here we have a tweet from 2020, December the 1st, which bothers me greatly. And I'm sure will bother you greatly too. I'll read it out first. Trans and gender diverse children and young people deserve the same quality of care as every other child. They do, but they didn't get it. That's the point of CAS, isn't it? Research, what I mean by that is that they should have got the mental health care they needed and they didn't. They were placed on the affirmation pathway. A pathway that Mr. Brady Dr. Brady seems to be wholly in favour of. Here he states, trans and gender diverse children and young people deserve the same quality of care as every other child. Research shows that gender affirmative care supports mental health and reduces the risk of self-harm and suicide. And what I want you to understand, and I'm not being condescending because it's quite hard to get your head around sometimes, is that this is a man who is advising the NHS at the uppermost levels possible. It's as high as you get. And here he is lying. I'm sorry, these are lies. Now we now know that because it's not 2020 anymore, it's 2024. Why didn't he? It's an interesting question and one that I think that we should have an answer to. Here we have a tweet from April the 26th, 2023, in which Dr. Brady lauds a campaign from LTT Cancer, which is a cervical screening campaign for our LGBTIQ plus community. It is obvious here that Michael Brady supports the alphabet soup. It is a very important campaign because there are people who think it doesn't apply to them because they have been caught up in the trans cult. Another great campaign from at LTT Cancer. Cervical cancer is preventable and can affect anyone with a cervix. Again here, the disrespect for the importance of the word woman or women. This has a profound effect on people whose second language is English. It also has a profound effect on women as it is deeply insulting. Only women have a cervix. Trans and non-binary face specific challenges in accessing smears. Do they now? Well, they just have to turn up and say they're a woman. Trans and non-binary, raising awareness and delivering inclusive services is essential. No, it's not. It's not. I agree with you that raising awareness is something we need to be doing, but I certainly don't believe that inclusive services need to eradicate the word woman, which you so obviously seem to think they do. We're only about 3 tweets in here, folks, and it looks to me like Dr. Michael Brady is less of a doctor and more of a cheerleader for the LGBT cult. That's just my take. Your take may be different, but serious questions need to be asked of a man who is so high up and has so much power of why he's believing this nonsense. And again, I'll leave that to you to decide. So what have we got next? Well, we have this. Our relationships, partnerships and collaborations will continue and only grow stronger in our common goal to improve the health, well-being and experience of the NHS for LGBT plus people. Hashtag LGBT health again, with the trans flag and the rainbow flag, and followed by note to self, always double check tweet before posting. Unforgivably, I missed Stonewall from the list of rainbow badge partnership organisations. It's been a long day. Now that was February the 9th. And I believe that's February the 9th of this year, in which despite the exposure of Stonewall by various organisations, and certainly as we saw in the BBC radio investigation that was carried out, I find it absolutely astonishing that a man of such position is still allied with Stonewall. Now, he has form. He's done it with mermaids as well, I believe, but we'll look at that another time. This asks many questions, this one particular tweet, not least of all because the Rainbow Badge Partnership organisations have now been abandoned, I believe. The whole thing's been defunded for obvious reasons, that it was pushing gender identity ideology onto people and has damaged gay children through transing the gay away. So I'm absolutely surprised to see this, I really am, and I do wonder whether Mr. Brady is up to date. I mean, as a doctor you'd think he would be, although I can't find him on the GMC register. I don't know what his qualifications are exactly. He's done amazing work in the past with the Terence Higgins Trust in regards to HIV. Amazing work. We see this with so many people, that they have done the most extraordinary work and then they seem to have gone completely off-piste, which is exactly what I think has happened here. It is important to mention at this point the involvement of Penny Mordaunt. Now, you are more than aware, dear listeners, of Penny Mordaunt's involvement in pushing gender identity ideology and its vapid offshoots into the public square. It was 2019 when she began to get people involved that right now we're looking at shouldn't have been involved at all. And you can see here the government appoints first National Advisor for LGBT Health. Minister for Women and Equalities Penny Mordaunt has today appointed the first ever National Advisor for LGBT Health in the NHS, an advisory panel for fulfilling the government's commitment to improving lives as set out in the landmark LGBT Action Plan. And that was in 2019. Right, under the Department of Health and Social Care, the Right Honourable Matt Hancock MP, the Right Honourable Penny Mordaunt MP, and the Government Equalities Office. This is absolutely astonishing. But here we have it. This is where it began. This is where this man was appointed. And I really need to ask the question, why? What was it he was doing that made him so qualified for this position? It must have been his past history of good work. That's all I can think. But between then and now, things have gone distinctly off the rails. Here we have him supporting the most extraordinary stuff. I mean, it just seems to be very odd. Retweeting and reposting on September the 6th, 2023, asking, does the following describe you? Bi plus or M-spec, woman or femme-aligned person, diagnosis of BPD, 18 plus and living in England. If so, we want to hear from you. Please spare 10 minutes to take our survey and potentially win a £150 voucher. The National LGBT Partnership. I'm sure there's more to be learnt about them. What's interesting there is the words femme-aligned person. This once again shows an utter disregard for the dignity and for the rights and care of women. It's absolutely beyond the pale that this is what is now being said in 2023. And I'm sure, or I hope, that Penny and Matt Hancock didn't know what he was going to do, or that maybe he didn't know himself until he went so far down the rabbit hole that is gender identity ideology and the LGBT plus cult. Astonishingly, here we have on August the 11th, 2023, Michael Brady retweeting sexual racist Nancy Kelly. You remember her statements about people who didn't want to allow LARPing men and women into their beds. She likened them to racists. Lots of interesting data from YouGov here, says Nancy, but perhaps this can finally put to bed the idea that cis lesbians feel negatively towards trans people, or that the LGBTQ plus community is splitting. It's absolutely extraordinary, isn't it, that they can allow such homophobia to be publicly said by somebody like Nancy Kelly, and that it was publicly retweeted, or reposted in this case, by Michael Brady. The homophobia in that statement is absolutely extraordinary, and it is incumbent upon us to ask questions about how is this man still there. I really can't understand how this has been happening, and the NHS have done nothing about it. It's all very good him saying on the head of his Twitter header, all views my own, after listing everything he's doing for the NHS. That's not how it works, mate. So, this one really annoys me. You can probably tell by the change of the tenor in my voice. This is pure homophobia being retweeted by Michael Brady, who is the head of advising the NHS. Questions must be answered by NHS England, and I hope that both you and I will be able to do that. Here we have, as early as September the 7th last year, Michael stating a really important survey to understand the experiences of reproductive health for women and trans non-binary people registered female at birth. Please share and retweet and complete if you're eligible. No change without good data. And this is from the Department of Health, who wants to hear your views on areas #women's health. Can't help themselves, can they? Non-binary people, trans people, registered female at birth. Nobody's registered female at birth, Michael. They're observed at birth as being female, and you're a doctor, for goodness sake. Again, we see here, as late as 23, and that's with everything that's happened since 2019 and before, that the absolute either ignoring or the not knowing about what's been going on. I mean, this pushes one of the most basic foundational beliefs of the tenets of gender ideology, that people can be born in the wrong body. So the NHS advisor for the UK is pushing born in the wrong body narratives, and pushing homophobic narratives, and pushing misogynistic narratives. Again, I say it, NHS England has a lot to answer. Next up, we've got this. This is Michael Brady again on May the 17th, 2023. No better day than, says Michael, than Ida Hobbit 2023, it's nuts, isn't it? To meet up with Lizzie Tweeter, Nancy MK, and Paul Martin OBE and talk LGBT health inequalities. Most productive, excited about our plans. And then we've got Paul Martin, who has responded, absolutely lovely afternoon spent with these gorgeous people, and I can't think of a more productive way to spend Ida Hobbit. Thank you, Nancy MK, Lizzie Tweeter, DM Brady, and fab to see the Stonewall UK offices finally. It's all about queer hope and joy at the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender Foundation, or LGBT Foundation. So here we have key players here. So this was Stonewall, the LGBT Foundation, and Dr. Michael Brady, alongside Nancy Kelly, who has nothing to do with Stonewall anymore, but still appears to have her nasty homophobic sticky fingers in it, meeting to discuss inequalities. What ones? I'm a gay man, I go into hospital and I get treated. What else do I need? You tell me, Dr. Brady. Something's not right here, is it? So we're seeing LGBT Foundation is a member of the LGBT consortium as well, I believe. So what we're seeing is a grouping of people here that I think the NHS England needs to explain. There's something not right, and this needs to be examined very closely. And I think we need to call for possibly Parliament to do so. There should be a full investigation into the links between these individuals and the damage of gender identity ideology and transing the gay away that was highlighted by the Cass review. In addition, I would wonder and like to know whether or not there's a connection between any of these people and the resistance of the adult gender clinics to play ball with Cass. I have no proof of this, by the way. I'm just asking the question. Is there a link? How many of these gender clinics, these adult gender clinics, have been in contact with these people? This is a very important question, and another one that needs to be asked of NHS England. Just a couple more, I think, for today. This one here, again from Michael Brady, a tweet. Don't believe everything you read in the media. The NHS Rainbow Badge project has not ended. It will continue to be one of the most successful initiatives in addressing LGBT health inequalities and supporting the NHS to be a more inclusive workplace for LGBT plus staff. I'm looking forward to the data that this has been a successful initiative, as I'm sure many of you will be. I would question it's been a successful initiative at all. I think it's done untold damage, especially to children. Michael tweeted this on February the 9th, 2024. I can't really say anything else other than this seems to be a man in denial of the reality of the tsunami of problems that are facing NHS England. It's worthwhile you going and have a look at his Twitter profile and see what you see and see what you think, and obviously to research whether or not I'm telling you the truth, because we must have the truth at this point. Children have been damaged. NHS England has been damaged. And it seems to me that what we have here is an activist at the heart of the NHS. And many questions need to be answered as to why he's still there, in light of Cass and in light of what we now know to be the damage that has been done to women and to gay people through gender identity ideology and transing the gay away. I hope you will take the time to write to NHS England and ask them why, because I'm certainly going to. Here from June the 14th, 2023, I think we have the cream on the proverbial cake. Michael says in his tweet, "You have to see it to be it." At Professor Chloe Orkin speaks beautifully about the importance of representation, inclusion and intersectionality. Congrats and thank you for all you do. And has an inaugural ever been delivered in such amazing shoes? And you can see there the pink fluffy slippers this person is wearing. Make no bones about it. What this tells us is we have a radical, hard left individual who believes in the nonsense of representation, inclusion, and in particular intersectionality, which is just rubbish. I mean, it's just a progressive game of power and oppression narratives. This marks Michael as a hard left, and I would say cultural Marxist, who is currently sitting in the NHS looking pretty as the advisor for the so-called LGBT, which I will remind good listeners yourselves has nothing to do with gays and lesbians and everything to do with gender identity ideology, queer theory, transing the gay away, indoctrination in schools, and every horror show that we know this has brought. I hope today's proved useful. I would like to see Michael Brady make a statement that he's got it wrong. Ruth Hunt already has. She's already gone, "Well, I listened to the experts." Were you the expert, Michael, that was being listened to? Or was it Nancy? Or anybody else from any of your LGBT alphabet mafia groups? Which was it? You know, I'm trying to bring you stuff here that is just simply fact, because you know how biased I can be. Ha! Anyway, that's enough from me. I've waffled enough for today, and I'm sure you have things to do. Let's see what comes next.